In the middle of the Hampshire countryside, an old 470 sailing dinghy is wheeled across a dusty farmyard. It may not have been near the water for some time, but this is no ordinary dinghy, nor its owner an ordinary sailor.
I've done the 3 Olympics. I've done Sydney 2000, Athens in 2004 and China in 2008. This is Eleanor Rigby, which I competed in the 2000 Olympics in, so that makes her 12, she's actually 13 years old now, and she is tired. You could never compete in this boat now, seriously, because the boat has become soft from heavy use and from the tensions and the loads we put through her, and the subtle differences between a boat that's very stiff and a boat that's a little bit past it is too much to still compete with. We have to sail around a square course, and the first bit is up against the wind, so we have to zigzag up against the wind, and the sailing upwind, they call it beating, is the most kind of technical area. It's where your equipment makes the biggest difference, and also it's where the race is won and lost. You're trying to transfer as much of the energy from the wind into forward motion, and that's really what all the development is about. If you can make all the right things stiff and use the things that flex to flex in a way that drives the boat forwards is sort of what we're aiming for.
During an 11-year partnership, Nick and Joe Glanfield, his former crew in the 2-man 470, amassed a huge haul of European and World Championship medals. But not surprisingly, it's the silver medals at Athens and Beijing that Nick is most proud of.
An Olympic campaign is it's quite a different undertaking because it's every 4 years, and I think that's why the Olympics is valued so highly, because you only have a few chances in your life, really. Typically in sailing, the first year would be where you would work on your crew manoeuvres and really gelling a team together. Then the next year you'd be looking at your speed work, so then you'd be looking at your equipment. Then the third year you would look at your racing, and you'd work really hard about your ability to deliver again and again the same performance, and then just slowly upping that performance. So as it comes down to your wins and losses being to do with your decision making as opposed to mistakes you've made. And then the final year, actually, a lot of it is about psychology. It tends to be a shorter year because the Olympics are in the middle of it, so you need to make sure you can peak at the right time, and you're ready to deal with the pressures of Olympic competition. I think that my biggest strength is competing under pressure. I tend to be able to deliver my best performance at the time.
Besides equestrianism, where healthy budgets are as important as healthy animals, sailing is the only other Olympic sport where funding and developing and maintaining infallible equipment over a 4-year period is so crucial and so complex.
It's all-consuming, really, sailing. There's all of the preparation of the equipment, and then the logistics of getting the right equipment to the right place. There's all our events all over the world, and we have to manage that ourselves. And then there's your fitness. We do quite a lot of fitness training, really, for a sport where your physical fitness doesn't drive the boat. 10 hours a week, I suppose. And then finally the actual on-the-water sailing, 40 weeks a year. And in those 40 weeks of sailing, you'll probably do 5 days of sailing, 2 days of readjusting your equipment and making sure it's, maintenance, it's all not going to break. I've dedicated a huge amount of my life to it, and the Olympics has always been something that I've always had in my mind, even since I was a really young boy watching Daley Thompson do his famous pole vault. The last campaign I've done was for London 2012, and I missed selection, and I'm gutted. But equally, it's that's part of competing. I think if you enter, then you have to be prepared to win and to lose.
So putting aside his disappointment at missing out on selection, Where does Nick think the team's focus will be in the final days leading up to the Olympic events in Weymouth?
I think most of it will be on staying focused on where they are and what they're doing, and really just trying to make sure they can deliver their best performance and not getting psyched out or having any other problems external to actually trying to compete and do their best performance on the day. The team they're fielding this year are, again, a really, really strong group of sailors, so I can't see them not coming home with lots of medals.
Having put everything on the line in his attempt to secure selection for 2012, is that it now? Or are the Olympics still unfinished business for one of Team GB's most successful sailors?
I'm hoping that there's a chance of putting together a decent campaign, a well-funded campaign for Rio, but at the moment it's the key part that I'm missing really is to get the funding to actually to do a proper campaign.
And assuming it all comes good for Rio, what would Nick take with him to give him that extra edge over the competition?
The ropes can always be better. I think you'd have a rope that was more consistent over its stretch. So at the moment, a lot of the ropes I use are incredibly strong. Their breaking strains are in the tons, and yet I never exert more than about 500 kilos on any part of this boat. So I think the problem then is the actual stretch at 50 kilos or 100 kilos, and if you could make a rope that was incredibly strong right the way from stiff, as in low stretch, right the way from 50 kilos all the way up to its breaking strain, I think that would be worth a lot. And as far as resins go, you'd have a resin that was easy to use, so it always cured, and it went off underwater. That would make life a lot easier because we always seem to be repairing our boats when it's raining.